1. We're on. Hello
Hey.
and welcome to The Intersection on Politics Social. And this is our first one, isn't it, Rachel? This is our first Politics Social episode of The Intersection. And we are going to go through, with you, we're going to go through all of the party manifestos. And where they stand on LGBTQIA plus issues. So, right, let's start at the top then. Are we starting with Labour?
We're going to go from... We thought we'd go bottom to worst. Bottom to best.
Bottom to best. Okay. So do we start with refuck or the Tory...
Refuck, okay. I think is...
That's just demonetised.
Oh, dear.
Oopsies.
But it's what it says. It's what it says in their manifesto. Yeah. So, I mean, it's no surprise. I mean, it's not a manifesto. It's a contract. And it already negates itself as being the worst because it uses transgender ideology. You know, that the people who say it's not an ideology. We're just transgender. So that not a great start.
That's just weird, isn't it? Because you just are. It's like saying black ideology, like being black is an ideology, or being Indian, or being British is an ideology, I guess, or being white, I suppose.
I mean, there's a lot of things they don't like, you know, in their manifesto. So it's all like, you know, obviously reducing pensions, reducing employment rights, all that usual stuff. But the leaving the European Convention of Human Rights, well, that's not great for LGBTQI people, but it's not good for anybody. You know, right to a family, right to privacy, all that good stuff. Yeah. You know, basically, then they can get rid of maternity pay and holiday weekends and all that fun, all the stuff the unions fought for. So that doesn't feel like a good thing. Leaving the European Convention of Human Rights, that feels a bad thing.
Yes.
The replacing the Equality Act, not great. Labour's big. I mean, it stood the test of time since 2010. It works.
Yeah. This was Labour's last act, wasn't it? Pretty much.
Yeah,
in office,
it's a strong piece of legislation, and it works, right? I mean, it's survived. It's 14 years. It's worked pretty well. You know, people go, "Oh, it's trans people get into toilets." No, it does. It says in there. It says you can exclude trans people from single-sex spaces. It's in there if you're legitimate and it's on balance and blah blah blah. It's all in there. In fact, it should have the menopause in there. It should have social mobility in there. It needs to be improved and added to. But of course, Refuck just want to remove it. So that's not great. So the Equality Act, then it criticizes multiculturalism. And anybody who says woke ideology, well, you know where that's coming from. And that's in there as well. Whatever and they want to scrap DEI initiatives and rules and stuff. And DEI is, and the reason...
This is diversity,
inclusion, and
equality and inclusion.
Yeah, DEI. Yeah. Well, the problem with that is the reason that I guess they don't like it. Obviously, they seem to be mirroring. I mean, I saw a post today, you know, "Make Britain Great Again," which is like the MAGA. I saw that on some of the social media today, and it's the reason DEI is under attack is that corporations, believe it or not, they do run a lot of DEI. They have positive action in America, and they recruit people that have trouble getting into big corporate.
Rachel, if it wasn't for diversity, equality, and inclusion, my partner couldn't work. Yeah, she's disabled. She needs those accommodations to be made for her to be able to work, to be able to do her job.
Yeah, reasonable adjustment is a real foundation of the Disability Acts and the Equality Acts, and DEI allows organizations to attract people. Every survey I have ever read says that DEI is good for R&D. It's good for business. It makes your entire workforce happy. There's an adage: if you're nice to the trans people, you're nice to everybody. And organizations perform better.
Rachel, sorry to interrupt. I'm nice to the trans people. I'm not nice to everyone.
No.
I'm not nice to the reform people.
No, but
and I pray a Tory knocks on my door, and then I don't think it's going to happen because I live in a very safe Labour seat. But if one of them knock on my door, I'll be like, "Oh, would you like to come in for a cup of tea?"
Well, I keep getting Conservative leaflets in my post box. It really annoys me. Brings me to anger very quickly. So people who attack DEI, corporates global corporates are pretty good at this. They all do it. They recognize, a lot of the corporates in the UK, for instance, know that Gen Z, 28% of them are LGBTQI. They want those clients. They want that workforce. And they are the last bastion. Like trans people are safe in the workplaces, generally in the workplace, because they have DEIs and they have HR departments who look after them. So if you are anti-woke and you're anti-inclusion, you're going to go after the last bastions, because governments are really rubbish at this, as we've seen. So corporates do look after their workforces generally. And DEI, and if they're going to win their battle of anti-wokeism, they've got to stop the corporates doing DEI, and that's why they attack DEI. So seeing it in a manifesto spelled out, we're going to get rid of it, get rid of woke, just make money, don't treat your workforce well. Trans people with ethnicity, history backgrounds, disability. It's going to be harder for you to get a leg into an organization that doesn't care about you, because you don't have to. I think corporates would still do it. And a lot of corporates have changed their DEI titles internally. So they're not called DEI anymore, but they're still doing it. They're just calling it something else. In America, they've got around it because they're still doing DEI in America. They just don't call it DEI anymore. So that's the attack. You can't stop people being people. Companies are still going to recruit them. But actually to specifically sort of say scrapping diversity and inclusion rules, that just feels, that's very... The only thing I'd say about Reform UK is it's very explicit. They're not hiding it. I mean, I think
they're not being mealy mouthed, are they? They're not saying, I will march with trans people. I just want them to be over there and I'll be over here, and then we can all get along. They're like, some people, they're out and out in their bigotry and their hatred of trans people, gay people, women, the disabled, just anyone really who's not a multi-millionaire nepo baby, privately educated piece of shit.
Yeah, it doesn't feel it's explicit. Unlike some of the other ones we're going to talk about, where I think they believe some of these things as well, but they're not saying it.
Yeah, so they want to ban transgender ideology, as they call it. In schools.
It's not an ideology.
They want to stop social transitioning. They want to stop children being able to change their pronouns. They want to make a law to stop children asking to be called the name that they want to be called by. Yeah. So, it's like a bully's charter. It's like a school bully's charter.
So
it really is.
It's mandating single-sex facilities in schools, public toilets, and changing areas. So that would imprison most trans people at home. So that it's basically saying we don't want trans people taking part. I wouldn't be able to drive to Manchester, 3-hour journey, 6-hour journey in a car. I wouldn't be able to stop at a service station. I couldn't go on holiday because I couldn't use the loo at the airport. Once I'm on the plane, I'm all right. That's fine. But I've got to get to the plane, and that's a long old wait. So they are basically imprisoning. If you mandate single-sex spaces, we're all a bit buggered. So
Reform are so evil. If you've got a member of your family who are going to vote for this, who are going to vote for people who are this homophobic and transphobic, and someone in the family is going to be gay. I mean, there are no completely straight families left in the United Kingdom, because the big gay wave came over as it became acceptable to be gay, like it became acceptable to be left-handed. And suddenly, about 10% of the population were left-handed overnight. It's funny that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the fact is that if you are gay or LGB and you don't really care about this, because it's very explicit about trans, it doesn't say anything about being gay, but they want to get rid of the Equality Act, which does protect same-sex rights. So it is, and
they want to leave the European Convention of Human Rights, which
affects
everyone, whether you're gay or not. Also, the getting rid of the DE&I rules are. They are that is just disgusting, and it is an all-out assault on people that rely on those things coming into companies so they can do their job. What these bastards want is for everyone to just be unemployed, I think. One of the other things that refuck want to do is they want to stop unskilled labor coming here, and it's like, so who's going to do the unskilled jobs? Oh, we're going to do that, Nigel, are we? Are we going to go and get up at 4 a.m. and go and pick cabbages in Lincolnshire? All right, mate.
It is pretty frightening. If you're a minority group or you're different, to their white straight men kind of. It's terrifying to read. I think the thought and seeing the stuff on social media, I know it's enhanced with their bots and stuff, but seeing that stuff is frightening. It feels like Germany in the circa 30s for me at the moment. It's frightening.
Yeah.
So hopefully that they're not going to get in this time, but we've got 5 more years.
We have got to fight tooth and nail to stop them getting anywhere in 2029.
Yeah.
Terry, a big hello to Terry and Billy and Tommy and David and Cluster Bungle. What a great name. We got Jane in the chat there as well. Lofty the Softy. We've got Sarah S, who's dropped a super chat in the chat. Thank you very much, Sarah. That's very kind of you. Did you see that JK has written a film about herself? But so far, over 80 female actors have turned her down.
Jeez.
I got that.
I know that would be a fun film, wouldn't it? Oh, can you imagine?
I used to really respect her, like 10 years ago.
Yeah,
and she's just gone horrible. She's just gone. I don't want to say mad. I just want to say horrible. She's just gone horrible. All hail the badger, says one angry pagan. This is our little badger here. I don't want to tell you the name of our badger because this badger was here before the dark times. This badger's been in the house for a long time. So, before the Tories. I've got a couple more before we get on to the Tories. Are we going to the Tories next? They're the next worst. Next worst. Right. George, thank you very much. Our UK are actual fascist, no doubt about it. Talking about reform. Yeah, absolutely. Ivan's in the chat. Hi, Ivan Ambrose. Hello. And we've also got Terry in there, Plymouth activist for justice. Cool. And we've got Duke Vengeance and Veg Pie who says, I'm out of salt. Better make that trip to Tesco. So cool. Also, Unquiet Spirit is in there and Play It Cool. And Puninator saying, my dad is voting reform, usually Tory, but turned off by Sunak's skin colour. Jesus Christ. He denies me being ace, claiming that I think you meant gay. Denies me being gay, claiming I just haven't found the right girl yet.
Oh my goodness.
Hey, like if I talk to any of my gay friends and I say, well, I'm not that fussy, they go, oh, you haven't made your decision yet. And I'm like, come on, this is what people say to you. Anyway, but right, let's get on to Tories. No, Tories.
Yeah, sorry. I mean, it's fun. We've had 14 years of watching this. Now, remember when Theresa May came along, she started the LGBT survey. She wanted to introduce self-ID. And it felt sort of David Cameron, Theresa-y up to that point. I mean, they weren't wonderful, but it felt all right.
Yeah.
And then Boris came in and it all went to shit. And we had the 29 intake of the Miriam Cateses. Obviously Kemma Badenoch has been, really full on with her campaign. And so their manifesto starts with putting biological sex into the Equality Act to tidy it up.
Yeah.
Making it straight. And I've seen lawyers on LinkedIn say, yeah, it'll just make it, this looks good. Let's tidy it up. Some personnel magazines have said, yeah, this is great. Some of the ones that don't write very well. And it won't tidy it up. What it will do, the Equality Act works perfectly well, right? I've already said, most people don't turn trans people away. When you go to a rape clinic, you're not in a dormitory with each other. You're all in separate rooms anyway. Yeah. They have provision for trans women. It's not been a problem in a toilet. Trans women don't attack people in toilets. Trans women get attacked.
Yeah.
The Equality Act works, and you can, if you have a legitimate, reason to exclude a trans person, you can. That most people don't, because there's not a problem. But obviously, since 2016, the Tories have been spreading this stuff, and their media has been spreading this stuff. And so, hey, look, what is sex? You couldn't define biological sex. I mean, Tony Blair went, oh, well, women have vaginas and men have willies. Well, great, I have a vagina. I'm a woman. Then in Tony Blair's eyes, it's not what he meant, though. Yeah. So you can't define what that is. It's not going to tidy it up. What it will do is allow providers to say, oh, this is a female service. We're excluding trans people. This is biological sex only, and there won't be any comeback because of that. So it allows people to legitimately exclude trans people. It won't tidy things up. And we're back to, I can't go to Manchester. I can't go on holiday anymore. So even with a gender recognition certificate, and Kemi Badenoch was tying ourselves up in knots on all the interviews of the morning that they announced this. It's unworkable. You can't have a toilet police. You can't have genital inspections. So it's ridiculous putting it in.
They do. This is what they want. This is what these sick bastards want. And they're the ones who'll call people like us. They'll say, oh, you guys are pedophiles, they'll say on the internet. And it's like, hang on, you lot are the ones who want to literally inspect children's genitals before you're allowed them to play a sport in a school. Who gets to do that? Who's going to be putting their hand up to do that job? Bunch of bloody weirdos.
It is. So the biological sex thing is terrifying. It's slightly better than Reform, because Reform want to get rid of the Equality Act. They want to keep it, but they want to add sex in there, which will just hurt trans people. They've actually gone out of their way to say they want it kind of prevent the legal recognition of non-binary people. They don't even want that to be tabled anywhere. So they're sort of hinting about they don't want discussion of gender identity in schools. And the bit that is disgusting is because it's a contested belief. Well, it's
so it's Christianity.
This upsets my wife gets really upset about this. I mean, it wasn't a contested belief until you wrote 1,000 bloody articles in your newspapers saying that it was, and then you have surveys and you get all your people to fill these surveys in. Suddenly you create this. It's contested by all the people.
Classic gaslighting. Absolutely classic gaslighting.
Yeah, absolutely. And so contested belief is disgusting. It's not contested. It wants to it's obviously banned puberty blockers for young kids, and it's now done it privately. The last thing, as the Russians were coming over the hill and they were burning all the papers in the chateau, the last thing that the health secretary did was sign it and ban it in private. And it's actually, it's something they continue to. We've already seen same-sex wards. They want to get rid of. I mean, most wards are mixed in hospitals now. You're lucky to get a bed anyway. So it's saying, I mean, this is the discussion on this makes me laugh, because they're saying, trans people cannot be on single-sex wards. They have to be in rooms on their side. And I'm like, great, private room, fine. But when you say that, they go, oh, hang on a minute, we don't want you to have that either, because we don't get that. So what do you want us to do? You want me to be on a male ward, do you? That's really, really what you want. So that's pretty cruel. NHS's constitutional survey.
It's sadistic. It's absolutely sadistic. I mean, the ban on beta blockers is puberty blockers.
One. Yeah, Good Law Project is challenging that with our friends at Transactional, though. So hopefully they'll be successful. If you want to go to Transactional and donate, or to the Good Law Project and donate to that court case, you can. Yeah, please do. And that will be good. So banning. There's the NHS have got a constitutional review going on, 10-year review. You can go and fill that in and say stop banning trans people, and you can look at Transactional's guidance on filling in the NHS constitutional questions, and you can go and do that. It takes about 20 minutes to say stop being horrible to trans people. So that's not
hard, is it?
No, but it's in their it's in their manifesto. No self-ID, obviously. They are not going to ban conversion therapy. It was on, it was off. It was on, it was off. It was off, it was on. Then it was LGBT.
So they banned it for gay people, but not for trans people.
No. They were going to ban it for LGBT people. Then Boris wasn't going to ban it at all. There was a kickoff, like people, Stephen Fry and everybody. And they went, well, we'll ban it for LGBT people, but not trans people. And then Stephen Fry was like, oh, I'm out. Bye, thanks, that's great. And then they said, no, all right, we will do it for trans people. There might be conditions, and it's been written. I mean, I think Kemi Badenoch has been slowing it all down, and it's just gone on and on and on. And they haven't done it. And I don't think they're going to do it. And because it's too hard. Germany, all these other countries just go, oh, we're just going to ban it. Canada, just going to ban it. Just outright, really simple. Yeah. But we find it really hard here in the United Kingdom because we're special. So banning conversion therapy, very hard.
One way of putting it.
So
I've got a super chat from Ivan Ambrose. Thank you so much for the £5 super chat. Sunak got really grilled by a listener on LBC this morning about his hostile approaches to LGBTQ IA plus people. Sunak, unsurprisingly, went to pieces.
Oh, good. He went to get, actually, I heard some of that because LBC never talk about, I love James O'Brien, but it won't talk about trans ever.
No.
And,
no.
you know, obviously, and he went through with the political correspondent on Sunak's questioning on LBC. And it was really good, covered everything, but the question on trans, of course.
Yeah.
James O'Brien won't talk about trans. And I've said to Wayne, I'll take James O'Brien out for a pint and give him some education. And then he can talk about it because it's easy. There's nothing to it.
Yeah.
So we've got the cash report. Obviously, they just they've adopted that. It's going to go out 100% in the hospitals. NHS is going to adopt it, even though there's been lots of criticism. And I hear rumors that, you know, they were seriously bad not put people in as part of the process that to make the process difficult. You know, so it came out, every LGBT organization and professional body shouting about it, all the left wing, all the right wing are going, isn't it great? And it's being used as in America, Cass has been waived by the Republicans as being like the blueprint. And it's like, oh, if that is what's happening, it's like, there's something wrong with it. Something smelly in Denmark, as I always say. Yeah. We'll come on to Labour and Cass, but it's just, ugh. And then we got so that's what's all in the, you know, in their manifesto. It's not great. There's nothing for LGBT people as far as I can see. The Equality and Human Rights Commission is the other aspect of that, which I'm hoping Labour will change when they come into power. We know that there's been lots of problems with the Equality and Human Rights Commission. It's not independent anymore. There's been lots of young people leaving. 21 LGBT organizations reported the Equality and Human Rights Commission to GANRI, the UN body that monitors them, and now they're under investigation. They're under review. So they may lose their status as being against what they call the Paris Principles. I don't want to go into it now, but it's all, there's a set of principles that monitoring bodies in each country should adhere to, and the Equality and Human Rights Commission is argued by 21 LGBT groups they're not adhering to that, and so they're under respect. So the Equality and Human Rights Commission may all change when Labour get in. I'm hoping they'll rip out the top management, make it independent again, like they have to do with Ofcom, Ofwat, all the other, you know, all that stuff. They all need to get the contamination out and get normal people in there and make them independent. So that's all under the hate crime against trans people, you know, in particular, and LGBT people in particular. Over, you know, they've had the alliance at their conferences, all that kind of stuff. There's lots of stuff to indicate not a friendly party any longer since 2016.
No, not at all. Actively hostile.
Actively hostile. All the stuff in Tufton Street groups of writing papers. A lot of those groups write papers of policy. You can go on to look at their websites. They're there. And you'll see some pretty hostile stuff about trans people. It's a machine of think tanks, the Conservative Party and their media, round and round sharing that stuff. It has been a pretty nasty time, and I'm glad that they're not coming back, because the harshest policies they won't get to implement. They can't put Sex and the Equality Act, all that kind of stuff. So not a great experience. And I'm, you know, nobody is more. I know we've got to worry about 5 years' time if Labour are going to stay in, but we've got, in fact, Labour aren't going to be great. We're coming onto their manifesto, but we've got a bit of a breathing space. But they'll still write their papers. Their papers will still write their articles, and we've got to work with Labour on press reform and all the other stuff. So let's move on to the middle of the pack, because those two are pretty.
Yeah, because I just got to read a few chats out first.
Yeah, please do. Sorry, I'm just yapping away here. Having a good time.
Well, Jane is saying in the chat, this is so abusive. I feel like the whole human race owes Rachel et al. A massive apology. I agree, especially for what's been going on the last 10 years. I've got a nickname for Kemi Badenoch. Flemmy Bad E knockoff. We've got One Angry Pagan. I know, lol, the Badger cult is inevitable. Okay. The Badger cult, yeah. GC says you need to point people to Sapolsky and Behave. I don't know who they are. Sapolsky? Do you know Sapolsky? I don't know what that's reference to. And Jane is saying ancient tribes embrace the different as diverse members that brought other elements to the overall strength. Absolutely. And my mum still calls me special too, says Duke Vengeance. Bella is just saying trans rights, human rights, exactly. And Duke is saying the Cass report was fourth rate rubbish at best. You don't just get to blanket deny 95% of the evidence because it doesn't fit the narrow viewpoint of what you
and we've got an
say.
intersection on that with Helen Belcher, which is worth going to listen.
It's well worth watching that.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, I often think about Kashmir, not the song by Led Zeppelin, but the actual place, where it's been fought over since 1947 between India and Pakistan. And nobody ever asks the people of Kashmir what they want. Yeah. Do they want to be ruled by India? Do they want to be ruled by Pakistan? Do they want to be an independent state? A mountain kingdom in the Himalayas, just like Bhutan is, or Nepal. And nobody ever asks them. And I feel it's the same with trans people in this country. Nobody asks trans people what they want. We keep on having these trans policies that are put together by people who are clearly not trans.
Well, I mean, it absolutely, and it is like Keir Starmer. We're coming on to him. But it's like, sit down and, I mean, there was LGBT Labour sat down with Keir about 2 months ago. There weren't any trans people in the room. There were a lot of LGBT people in the room, and it's like, where are the trans people? For God's sake, you need to sit down and have a conversation over a pint or something. He comes to the one with me and James O'Brien if he wants. And talk about.
I'd love to set that up. You, James O'Brien, and Keir Starmer, having a pint. Putting the world to rights.
Absolutely, and it really, I put that out to you, James O'Brien, because you're a good man. You just need to talk about trans, and I think so. It is coming down to meeting people and talking to people. The other thing on Conservatives before we move on to the middle of the road, middle of the pack, was that obviously Kemi's last act was that she was collecting policies. She was asking them all to send policies into her little website on the government. So she can, nobody quite sure what she was going to do, but she was obviously looking for something like maybe possibly fine the companies for having trans policies or legislating against the template. We don't know what the reason purpose was. I mean, lots of people submitted all sorts of the guide to their programming their video recorder. There were some great activists who just submitted loads of stuff. Somebody submitted the Equality and Human Rights Commission single sex guidance, which is awful. So lots of people gave her, lots of but basically what she was doing was getting a lot of her followers to submit guidance and say, look at all this concern I've got out there, because she's got and there's a university collecting data on behalf of the government, which is about platforming gender crits at university. Have you been stopped by sex and gender talking at university, and they're collecting data? It's not very nice. So there's all that's been happening in a very open space for them where people have not pushed back. So hopefully that will change. So SNP, oh God, I don't know where to start. It's middle of the pack. And they were so good, weren't they?
They were. They were so good. And
I got their manifesto.
But most of the gender crit movement started in Scotland as a response to the fact that the SNP were being so progressive and being so inclusive of trans people. I don't know.
Looking at the prospectus, is that right? Whatever it is. Looking at it online, I did a word search for the word transgender. It's not in there. LGBT has one small para. It's mentioned 4 times the word LGBT, and it's just really generic. So really nothing. John Sweeney, I mean, it's really gone. Hamza was really good, and obviously, what's her name before was really good on trans, and she was really good at keeping the party together. But now we're down to John Sweeney, and he's Mr. on the fence. So he's kind of said, we need to wait and see. Self-ID, wait and see. Situation of the Supreme Court makes it very hard for us now. It's almost, in Scotland, it's gone cold. Nothing. It doesn't feel like. In London, it's a bit better because Mary Black, John Nicholson, very good on trans. John Nicholson is brilliant on trans. Mary Black is really good on trans. You got Joanna Cherry there, who's obviously not.
No.
But it feels like the Westminster's a bit stronger SNP wise. But there's really nothing in the prospectus, nothing to get excited about. I think the S&P are a spent force at the moment, and I'm sorry if that sounds.
I know, and that's kind of sad in a way. But yeah, it just doesn't look like things have gone their way over the last few years. I keep thinking of
the candle that burns twice as bright burns half as long, and they burn very bright on trans. And
nice little Blade Runner reference there.
Yeah, and you have burned so bright, Roy. So yeah, bit of a it's not even middle of the pack, but it's disappointing. Read the manifesto. Just do a word search for transgender. You won't find it. Non-binary, not there. LGBT 4 times in one tiny para. It's just not saying anything. So Stephen Flynn, I reckon if he was leader of the whole, I think he'd be great because he would say this stuff. I know he attacks Labour in the.
I don't blame him for attacking Labour because they're his biggest competition. I do get why he does it. Yeah, and I wish he wasn't. Joe, I wish Labour and the SNP could work together somehow. But that's the way politics is. I do get that.
Yeah. They may have to in the future, if you know what I mean.
I'm not as naive as I look. But I still feel like the way he puts himself across usually is really, really good.
Well,
plain, straightforward.
In the debate, he talked about refugees and why we need them. He was the only one who said we need it for the economy. Nobody's having babies, and he was like, "It's a good thing."
Yeah,
he's the only one who said that.
Yeah,
and I feel if he was asked a trans question, he would say, "Trans people, leave them alone. They're really not
leave them alone."
Yeah.
I like that T-shirt that David Tennant wore that said "Leave trans kids alone, you freaks."
He's starting a campaign. Actually, it's in Pink News. I'll have to look it up. But he's starting another "Leave the trans kids alone." Let the trans kids be trans kids campaign with another activist, another celebrity. He's really going for it. So well done, good doctor.
Good doctor.
So yes, yeah. Labour then.
Labour, are they next?
God.
Okay. So
where do I start? As I say, no LGBT.
The fourth worst. The fourth worst.
Well, they're middle of the pack, and it's not. Yeah. And even then, they're not really. It's the lower end. It's been. I mean, obviously, running the Ming Vase policy, they'll just say nothing on trans if they have to. Yeah. And it's Phil always says. Uncle Phil always says they could be more bold on trans. It would get more votes. They get LGBT votes. They get young vote, and they're not. They're just that bloody Ming Vase of theirs on the skating rink drives me mad. Mm. So in their manifesto, respect and dignity. I mean, that's okay. Yeah, well, okay, we all deserve that. It says they're going to ban conversion therapy, including trans inclusive measures. Just what it should say is we are going to have a no conditions ban conversion therapy. Ta-da! Yeah. But no.
Yeah.
Including trans inclusive measures means there's going to be a condition. That's how I read that.
Yeah.
Now I know counsellors can, they're all worried about trans, counsellors for gender counselling and all that stuff. That happens anyway. And all the other countries that banned it, you could still get counselling for gender because you may not be trans, and they'll help you through it if you are, or it might be something else that's going on. That all still happens in all the other countries where they banned conversion therapy. But here, it's a bit tricky. This feels very precautionary, and I don't like it. I should just say we're going to ban it outright. Walk away, nothing to see here. So that's annoying. Then we're into gender recognition. So no self-ID. They're not going to do self-ID, which is a non-medicalized process that 30 countries have, including Ireland. They're not going to do that. But what they do say is they're going to simplified the gender recognition. Obviously, we have the Gender Recognition Act 2004, which is very medicalized. And quite
at the moment, you need 2 doctors, is it?
Two psychiatry report, statutory declaration saying you're intending to live in the role. You have to prove you lived in the role for 2 years, and all that. Spousal veto, permission from your partner if you're married, all that stuff. So it's pretty. And they said they're going to simplify that process now, but there's still a requirement for gender dysphoria diagnosis, so it's still medical. Yeah. So we don't know what that means. They might do what the Tories said, we stick it online and cost it $5. That didn't really help anybody. But it's not really going to help. So we're a little bit more, okay, you're going to make it easier, but we don't know what that means. So we'll see. They obviously agreed and blocked the Scottish ID process. They were very silent on that issue. I don't know if they voted against it. I can't remember. But Wes Streeting, the trouble with Wes, has gone, well, single sex wards. Yeah, it sounds like a good idea. Let's exclude trans people. Great. Fantastic. Thanks, Wes. Trans women are not women. Thanks again, Wes. You're really great. Hey, you're really giving us a lot of hope. You really want the 28% of Gen Z voting for you. And it's just rubbish. And apologizing to Rosie Duffield after all the horrible things he said to. So you got Wes and Rosie and a few others in Labour. It's just not exciting for LGBTQI people that Labour's. And we're going to absolutely fully implement CAS. No discussion. What? Every LGBT organization in the UK is saying there are problems. Every professional body is saying there are problems, but you're just going to accept it. Why? Because of the Ming Vast strategy. You don't want to be in the Telegraph. So you're not saying you better do something after this, because it just fills me with dread that Labour are going to be mwah, and we're not going to get anywhere. So I'm really disappointed. I'm a Labour member. I'm a member of LGBT Labour. And it's like, oh, I'm so unexcited. I just feel that they're going to any more pressure in the Daily Mail, and I just think they'll fold. And and it doesn't feel like we're shored up with Labour. And the manifesto.
Bella in the chat is saying anything that could be good is always balanced out with GC, which I assume stands for gender critical. Bella says also that Labour paragraph was pretty much opening the door to exploratory therapy. That was the key word in that paragraph. Yeah. For those who don't know, exploratory therapy is a rebrand, a conversion therapy for acceptability purposes. Yeah. Also, in the LGB interview, Starmer himself said we're practically not women.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And Gallifreyan Wren saying Wes seems to be a bit of a bellend.
Yeah, Wes has turned into a bellend. I mean, I know people that know him, and he was all, he was in part of Stonewall, gay man, blah blah blah. He's fought his way up. His book is meant to be really inspirational, and it's like, oh, let's now just shit on trans people, which they know are not a problem. Trans people don't go into toilets and attack people. Trans people are the crime against us are really, really high. We do not hurt anybody, but the papers are banged out there 10,000 articles every 2 years. The Tories have been on us. They cannot say we support trans people. They're not really a problem. Let's just give them the healthcare and let people get on with their life. They now have to play this. We need to placate this hate on the other side, and that they know we're not a problem. They all do, but it's just political footballing, and it really annoys me. And I'm really, really fucking disappointed in Labour. I just can't tell you. So not excited. And I've got friends who are in Labour who are members of the party, senior, and I can't talk to them at the moment. I just can't.
Sort your shit out. Right, reconnection successful, it says. Good. Okay, so we have been reconnected. Sorry about that, everyone. We went off there for a moment.
Wasn't
me.
We're
back now.
Yeah,
it was
we've been hacked by Labour.
Hacked by Labour. Hacked by Wes Streeting.
Wes is so I'm really disappointed in Labour. As I say, I've got lots of friends in senior in Labour, and I can't talk to any of them at the moment. I'm on a complete radio silence. I'm just so I'm
very glad that we've changed the name of this channel.
Yeah, it's best move, because we're trans allies, right? We're LGBTQI allies here. Yeah. It's a safe space. Yeah. And I
don't want anyone to feel
safe space. Yeah. And
I don't want anyone to feel excluded on the left, any progressive voices. I don't want them to feel like they can't go on this channel.
It's press reg, PR, and LGBTQR rights for me. That's why I'm on this channel. It's just, So right into Plaid then. I think, they were really good. They did their LGBT. They've always been really good. It felt that there was an article from the new leader, and it was kind of waffly on CAS, no commitment to roll back. He went, there are concerns, but and it was quite waffly on the Equality Act. We know there are new concerns that need to be new concerns. The concerns are manufactured. It promotes the manifesto promotes LGBTQI rights. It does pledge the end of conversion therapy, lower hate crime, which is good. Police relations with LGBTQI. I think police relations with everybody would be good. And I really liked, and they do support having a gender identity clinic in Wales, which is and a demedicalized self-ID system. So that is there. So that's good. It's just when you speak to the senior politicians, it's like, I don't know what I'm going to do with CAS. I'm going to think about it. I would like, we need to redo another CAS. We need to review what's in CAS. We need to see how that was compiled. And it's a little bit on the Equality Act. I don't think they'll put sex in the Equality Act if they had the power to do that. But I don't think it was just that there's an interview in Pink News with the leader. I'd read it. It would just felt a little bit. Oh well, yeah.
What?
It just felt very juggling. It felt very juggling.
Okay.
On the set. That's my juggling.
That went off on a bit of a mad tangent. Okay.
It just felt very. Where Wales was about 2 years ago, and there was super in the corner. And I've got friends who, and the leader of Plaid, marched in Cardiff Pride and all that stuff. I don't know. The article in Pink News felt a little cooler. It just did. I might be wrong, and if there anybody who lives in Wales doesn't agree, I'm absolutely happy to be corrected. It just felt a bit cooler than they have been, and that's a little worrying. This is not the time to cool off. It's like that with sort of, organizations that have shouted about trans rights in 2016 when it was easier. A lot of them have gone quiet now when it's harder. And I just feel like political parties aren't yelling it from the rooftops. So not a lot on Plaid, but it just, the interview in Pink News is worth a read. It just felt a little cooler, not more, boom, going to leave the Equality Act alone. In fact, we're going to strengthen it. We're going to non-binary identities, definitely going to go for that. It does say they're going to demedicalize gender identity in the perspective. So, that's good. So there is stuff in the manifesto that's better than, than SNP were, and where Labour are. It's better than Labour. It's just that it was the interview with the leader that just made me think, where are you on this? That's how it felt. And that's just my feeling.
Vinath, is it Vinath Yalworth? Is that it? The leader's name? Am I just butchering the
you probably are.
Welsh language? I'm so sorry. If you want to tell me in the chat precisely phonetically how to pronounce the leader of Plaid Cymru's name, because otherwise I'm just gonna we'll just keep referring to him as the leader, won't we?
Yeah,
the leader.
It's worth a read of the Pink News article, because it just felt a calling. Yeah, I might be wrong. It might be activists in Wales are going, no, Rachel, you're wrong.
No, Bella's got a great point here. She said Plaid Cymru is going to be a juggling party. It's got to be both left and it's got both left and right wing support because they're unified in wanting Welsh.
Right. So it's a bit like the Scottish SNP in Scotland. They've got a right broad church.
Okay, I'm going to write this
That's a really
down.
good point. Thank you for that.
Run ap Iworth. Okay, run ap Iworth.
Yeah.
There you go. I was nearly there. I was in the right ballpark. Completely the wrong name there, but never mind.
I didn't even try. Hello, you. When I meet people I can't pronounce.
Yeah.
So
Rob Alaris in the chat is just doing some mathematics, which I can't even read. It'll take me too long. Gallifrey Wren says that bit riles me up. There are concerns. The Earth's CD and the South Poles and ice wall doesn't make concern fact. Yeah, we get that all the time, don't we? People genuine concerns. We've got asylum seekers, got genuine concerns about migration, and it's genuine concerns. I'm like, I don't care.
When an issue is going to be an issue, because it always starts with "I have questions," which is now, I remember there was a Conservative MP stood up and it was about abortion, and he said, "I have questions," or "I have concerns." Yeah. And that's how it started with trans in 2016. I have concerns. And it's the language of development. It's like a manual.
We're just anyone joining us, Rachel Harris and I, we're going through each party manifesto in turn, starting off with the really bad shit, which was in Refux Abomination. It's not even a manifesto. It's just called their Abomination. And then the Tories, second worst. The third worst were the SNP.
SNP, only because it doesn't say anything.
Yeah, and then Labour in the middle.
Labour, well, we know there are rollbacks all over them now.
Malcolm in the
middle.
middle.
Wes and Keir are saying is like.
Tom E is saying even though LGBTQ plus isn't in the Labour manifesto, doesn't mean that it won't be implemented later on during a Labour government. I support LGBTQ plus. Try and stay positive, Rachel. Yeah. We are.
Good point. I wish. That's a really good point. I'm hoping that once Labour are in, they're going to go, ha, surprise, we're rejoining the EU. We love trans people. Dun, dun, dun. And
surprise, gammon!
I didn't murder
surprise, motherfuckers! I'd love that. Do that, Labour.
But it doesn't. What Phil always said, Uncle Phil always says, if it's not in the manifesto, it's harder to get it in and get it through.
But not impossible.
Yeah, it's not impossible, but it's the stronger intentions are in the manifesto. That's what Uncle Phil always says, and I think I would love to have seen more strength, but I know why it's not, because the Telegraph, Daily Mail, the Express, they'd all come for them.
All of them today were just like, Labour's got to put your taxes up. It was just like parroting a press release from Conservative Central HQ. Do you know what I mean? It was just like, tell them the taxes are going to go up, make them better. And like, honestly, you look at the polls now, they haven't changed. No. And it's not like Reform are coming up. It's not like they're taking any votes from the Tories. No. They're not taking any votes from Labour. They're getting votes of people who weren't going to bother voting.
Yeah, that's right.
It makes no difference. And I'm seeing some polls that are saying they're going to get up to 3 MPs, but I'm seeing others that are saying they're not going to get any. Like, apparently Farage is only polling about 30% in Clacton, which is where he thought he'll get his massive support. And
Clacton don't want to be the people that brought Farage in. They don't want to be that place. And I think
that'll be an albatross to hang around the neck of Clacton forever.
Yeah, it would be.
George, thank you very much for the super chat. Who's really running the country? Government, press. Yeah, we need press reform.
It's what I always like about Hugh Grant. He always says when there's a leadership challenge, he goes, "Now, ladies and gentlemen, what's happening is the Daily Mail is going to decide who's the Prime Minister's going to be." And
but they do anyway. I mean, you saw that with Liz Truss. Yeah. Liz Truss, who brought out that budget, and the Mail said, "At last, a true Conservative budget." And Nigel Farage said it was the best budget for 30, 40 years or something. And I'm like, a bit quiet about that now. Michael Warner in the chat says, day one press conference, we are imprisoning Tories, rejoining the EU, and having a national holiday to pour milkshakes over Nigel Farage.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, I'm up for that. Obviously, we need to do it in a sensible way, because at the moment, people throwing things at Farage, I feel like it's kind of like a bit unregulated. Do you know what I mean? And people could throw anything. So what we need to do is actually mandate that he has to spend an afternoon in stocks, and we have soft fruit that we can throw at him.
Oh, that's a nice idea.
And we keep it nice and safe, and it's horrible and humiliating for him.
Well, as I said, he's providing a service. I said it on Friday night. He's providing a service. We know which McDonald's milkshake machines work when Farage, because they don't always work, do they? So
no, they don't.
You can get down. You can get down. To get down to Basildon in Essex, because you've got a milkshake chucked over him. So the machine must be working. Really?
I think it's Johnny Harris or someone did a video on why don't McDonald's milkshake machines ever seem to work.
Yeah,
and it's one of those YouTube videos that you go, this isn't going to be too interesting. And like 40 minutes later, you're still there, like, oh my God.
I get quite obsessive. I was in New York a couple of years ago, and they were having a heat wave like they're having now, actually.
Yeah.
And I was desperate for those McDonald's McFlurry things. I suddenly became like a pregnant woman, obsessed about them, and I couldn't get them anywhere. They were all machines off. And I was going all over New York trying to find. With my poor wife, I dragged her over every street trying to find a McFlurry. Yeah. What one? I'm hot. I want to have one. But become obsessed. So Lib Dems then.
Lib Dems. So they're the second best.
So they're second best, but I would say not. I would say, there's some cooling off in Lib Dems. I mean, they backed down a couple of years ago when they were pushed on their trans inclusion.
Well, we had Tim Farron, who was leader, and that created problems because he had personal views informed by his religion about the LGBT community, and
and we have a separation of powers in this country. Religion and politics are separate, so you shouldn't bring that into your job, into your workplace. I mean, it's just
we don't do God.
We don't do God in politics. But I think there was a sort of transgender. They were going to write policy on support of trans, and they had to back it down because they got some internal gender pushback, and it was that I used to be Lib Dem, and that's when I left the Lib Dems. I was really disappointed by the back down. As I say, I'm not as more as I was only slightly disappointed, but I left because I thought this was in the good old days when there was a bit of transphobia about, and now there's lots. And so I'm more disappointed with Labour than I was with the Lib Dems. But the Lib Dems are there's some pledges in their manifesto. They want to ban all forms of conversion therapy. Ta-da! See how easy that was. That was easy, wasn't it? Doesn't say, and we're going to do some stuff for trans people as well. It just says we're going to ban all. That was pretty good. They're going to remove the requirements for medical reports in gender recognition. Hey, great. That's nearly self-ID, though they're not calling it self-ID, because if they did, they'd go, people would rugby tackle them to the ground. So it seems like it's gender recognition, and it feels like it's not going to be medicalized. So that's good. They're going to remove the spousal veto. So it's sort of like the Gender Recognition Act without medical reports and the fact your partner can't prevent you getting it. So they also want to put diversity monitoring for LGBTQI people into the workplace. So like they have the gender pay gap and ethnicity reporting. They want companies to say how many LGBTQI people they've got. That's good, because companies will have to do it. And if it's going to look bad if, Apple or Microsoft don't have any LGBT people in the UK. So it's good that that they collect that data, and they want that reporting at all levels. And they also want to look at this is funny, but they want to look at the decriminalization of LGBTQI rights internationally. They want to do so they're actually not xenophobic. They're not looking at just the UK, demonizing LGBTQI people's bad here, but we also want to make sure abroad that it's not happening as well. So I would say it's an improved. I'd be comfortable with this. I'd like a little bit more, but it's good. It's okay. That's why it's second. It's better than everybody else's. They haven't said anything on hospitals or, I don't see it. I couldn't see anything on toilets. I couldn't see anything on CAS or kids. It was nothing in there. But
why is there no campaign? Why is there no international campaign to end architectural sexism, which means there's always a queue for the ladies and never a queue for the men's?
Yeah,
it's because all buildings are designed by men, and they don't give a fuck that women have to queue.
Yeah. Well, there's a really good professor-y looking young guy on. I think I sent you the link in the Political Social.
Yeah,
and he talks about, because Kemi wants to ban, all buildings have to have single-sex loos. This is one of the things she's come up, in the planning laws. And if there's space, there can be a super loo, but it can't be. It's not called an all-gender loo. It is a super loo. But otherwise, it's the single-sex loos only. And it was like. And he did this analysis of what she was saying. And he was saying, well, basically, it all comes down to super loos are all gender loos, basically. It's the super loos are the loo and the sink in the same room, right? Yeah. And lots of banks in Canary Wharf have them, and they don't have single sex loos. They just have the super loos. And there are never queues because anybody can use them. It's been like a whole load of plain train loos in a corridor. And it basically came down to where the sinks are located. If they're in the cubicle, Kemi's happy. If they're outside the cubicle and you have to meet another person after you've been into your private bit, washing, that seems to be the thing where you wash your hands.
It's the biggest
I know.
Straw man. It's an absolute straw man, isn't it? We've got this huge problem. What's the big problem? Trans people are attacking cisgender women in toilets. Have you got any evidence of this happening? No. Maybe one incident in the last 20 bloody years. And they're like, okay, we've got... And you're just like, oh my God, like an overreaction to...
it is. It's created. It's a created... Trans women don't go around attacking people in loos. I have seen statistics. I think I've said this to you before. People have sent me links to sites called, where they've got loads of trans women. It's always trans women committing crimes. And the stats show that we commit crimes at a higher rate than non-trans women and non-trans men. Right. That's false. What they do is they say a sample of non-trans men, 100, sample of non-trans women, 100, sample of trans women, 8,722,463. Look, trans women commit higher crimes because they
lies.
Really, and I've seen that going in and out of Houses of Parliament, right, into the House of Lords. I've seen that sort of data going in and out. So there's some of that is created, manufactured, and it's nasty. And so they are devious and they're dark and they work.
Nasty. It's just nasty.
We work, and then there are there are full-time lobbyists in Parliament working, gender critical lobbyists in Parliament. And it's they're having an effect. However, things hopefully will change. Okay. So Lib Dems pretty good.
Okay, and let's finish it off. Number one.
And it's also good because on stopthetories.vote, your alternative vote is either Labour, Lib Dem, or Green, really. So these are the three. I'm in a comfortable position, sort of. Labour needs a lot more, and let's hope they do after they get in. So the Green are great, right? Because of course they are. They don't want us to starve to death and cook to death and have water. So, that what's wrong with that? I mean, obviously the opposite end don't want net zero. Republicans don't want net zero. People who don't want net zero, basically,
they want women to have rights. Never mind.
No. I mean, they've all got bunkers and they're all ready to go wait for the end of the world. But the Greens actually want us to be able to feed ourselves, not cook to death, and have water and have a survival planet. And I mean, that's good, isn't it? Right? So I like the Greens, and they've always been pretty. They've had some transphobia in their party, and there are wars, but they generally respond to it pretty well. So health provisions and appropriate age-related sex education. Don't know what that means. I'm assuming it's leaving the status quo as it is, because they weren't teaching 9-year-olds and
this is
know that more than I do.
The only people who want to stop children who are like 9 years old from learning about their own body are people who don't want them to know about their own body. Now, why would you not want them to know that?
Yeah, quite.
That leads you down some very, very dark roads.
So they're not
it's
teaching
appropriate for their age.
Yeah, they're talking about. I mean, what it seems to happen from what the campaigner that runs the schools thing. He said, they're teaching about their body parts and things, not about sex or how to have sex or that stuff. It's about their body parts, and if an adult does something in a way that it's probably something you should tell mommy and daddy about, right? And it's it gives them that awareness. And that's the bit they want to remove, which is frightening. Yes. So why do you want to
there is a protection to the children. And also, I mean, if a kid starts their period at 9-10 years old, it can be terrifying if they don't know what the hell is going on. Like there are stories, not necessarily from the UK, but from other countries, developing nations, where periods are not discussed amongst young children, and they wait. Oh no, I'll wait till they're 12 or 13. But some children hit puberty earlier, and there's stories of young people unaliving themselves as a result of just thinking there was something wrong with them. When it wasn't. It was just like this needs to be discussed. It's a child safeguarding issue to discuss it in a safe environment for the kids. And the way that the gender crits and the fuckers and the toys talk about it, they make it sound like they're showing hardcore pornography to little children.
But that's what they always do, because it's got the word sex. They've got the word sex in it, right? And they're observed with the word sex, so it sounds like sexual acts and not your body and your So I think Green saying age appropriate sex education feels like it's the status quo. I don't know. It doesn't say any more than that, but it feels like the status quo. So you do talk about trans people existing and same-sex relationships at the right ages. It feels like the status quo, and it's the Greens, right? I mean, they're not going to be, they're not going to be rolling anything back there. It doesn't. They support self-ID. Only party that says. I think the Liberals support but they don't call it self-ID. I think the Greens have said we support self-ID.
Self-ID for gender changes without medical diagnosis. And also there are plans to recognise non-binary and intersex people on legal documents. Fabulous.
Explicitly saying that. They don't. I mean, that's not necessarily self-ID. They might let you put it on an X on your passport, your driving license. They may not let you change your birth certificate, but they might do. But it doesn't say. But it's the first one that says, because a lot, some people in some of their manifestos have said, no, non-binary, that's not happening. They've said it. Whereas here in the Greens, they're saying non-binary recognition. First one to say that explicitly. Lovely jubbly. We like that. X on passports, X on driving licenses. Americans federally do that. Lots of countries do it. So we won't do it here because of security reasons, because we're very special in the UK. Special. It's really good. My theory is our computer systems are so bloody old in the UK that they just don't want to buy
Don't have it.
Yeah, they can't do it.
It's like teletext.
So really good on documentations, intersex and non-binary recognition, X on part. It's just great. Aims to end HIV by 2030. Brilliant.
This is a campaign, isn't it?
There is a campaign
using accessible prevention methods. And treatments for people who are HIV positive, that is a fantastic goal.
Liking that, and also then the last one is just like minimizing hate crimes, equal employment rights, and improving NHS. Whoa, the first one to say improve NHS for LGBT people. Blimey,
I like taking things away.
employment rights, yes, definitely better. We definitely need better, stronger rights. But I like the hate crimes idea. I'm assuming they're going to sort of say you beat a trans person up or you abuse them, it's going to be a hate crime. Properly write it down, because Scotland really messed their hate crime stuff up, right? They didn't quite get it where they wanted it to be. So I think that if you're going to improve trans rights, trans healthcare, or LGBT rights, LGBT healthcare, you need that Bridget Arnhem. You need to jump and say, we need to make a hate crime. While we're trying to get all this stuff in place, trans people are getting beaten up, attacked, and abused. So let's get this end thing in. Let's make it illegal to be hateful and beat trans people up and make it severe. Then we're putting all the other stuff. So that isn't necessary any longer. So put your flag in and say hate crime, leave trans people alone. Right, now let's put all the other stuff in. So I really like that. I mean, that's what I would do if I was in government. I would put the hate crime in first, make it very strong, and then do all the other stuff. Yeah, because you need to protect them while you're trying to give them the stuff that they deserve. Yeah. So I think the Greens is good. I mean, they'll never be in power, but they might be in coalition one day, and so this is good stuff. Yeah. I think as the world warms up and we're all gasping for water, they might be in power. That's my theory. We'll all be voting green in 10 years.
Well, I've got my theory today about the Just Stop Oil protesters who went out and
big oil.
Oh God, no! What are you doing? You're attacking Stonehenge. Okay, guys, I hate to say this, but it would seem to someone who is conspiratorially minded that you might be getting paid by the big oil companies to make environmentalists look bad. Can you stop it? Can you just... I mean, I don't mind glitter being thrown over a celebrity. Not asked about that. If that's the way you want to get your message across. But like stuff like this, I'm just like...
I mean, I don't condone what they did. I mean, it was not the greatest move, but I understand why they're doing it. Because you look at the groundwater in Europe drying up, you're looking at the crop failures, you're looking at we're having a heat wave soon, America's in a heat wave, Greece is in a heat wave. And I guess they're getting panicky and they're getting more desperate because nobody, it's just look up, isn't it? You know, I know that there's climate change. I'm just worried about trans rights. That's what I fight for. That's my daily job. So
it's all connected. It's all connected, though.
Yes, it is.
Because like the people who hate trans people are the people who are going, I'm not worried about climate warming.
It's trans kids, trans adults, LGBT rights, same-sex marriage, women's rights, net zero. They're always, because guess who's funding them, right? You know, it's the people that want to live in they're going to ruin the world and then go into their billion-pound bunker at the end. It's like Stark. Read Ben Elton's Stark. He predicted this in 95. The billionaires will fuck off to their space station and we all die. So this is who funds. That's why these things are always joined up. And it's not conspiracy. The people that fund the stuff, it's net zero, it's women's rights.
It's like it comes as like a bumper deal. A package, that's it. A package.
It's a fast pack.
So, While we've been talking, I've had just 2 amazing bits of news come through on my phone. One of which is that my friend's daughter has just got a first at university, which is absolutely phenomenal. Brilliant. So have a big round of applause for Phoebe, everyone. Well done, Phoebe. And secondly, I've just got a message off a mate of mine. I assume that everyone watching this knows of Jay Foreman, who does Map Men on YouTube. I get name checked on the next episode. If you are a Patreon subscriber, you get to see it earlier, and someone's just said that I get name checked.
Hey, and
that's like the most exciting thing that's happened to me in a very long time. So if you're watching this, Jay, hi, I love your stuff.
James O'Brien name checked you. You're there,
yes. No, it wasn't James O'Brien. It was a caller. Yeah. It was Elizabeth from East Grinstead who name checked me, and then bloody James O'Brien cut her off. Started wibbling on about Nick Abbott instead.
What you should do, right, is go around the world without flying to every country and write a book about it. Because now everybody knows who you are.
That's
you should do
such a good idea. I should definitely do that. And then everyone will know who I am.
Yeah. You need to do it quicker than that Norwegian guy that said he did it first.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's true. Anyway, people are saying congratulations, Phoebe. I love this. This is why I love doing the live stuff, because we actually have the interaction with the chat.
Yeah, me too.
And can I ask what the Q stands for in LGBTQ? It's queer.
It's queer and or questioning. It can be questioning in some countries.
Yes,
it's that's why we use the plus after T, because A can be asexual. It can be ally. Q can be queer or questioning. So it's different jurisdictions have slightly different. So sometimes we just say LGBT plus or LGBTQIA and just exclude, and you just take your interpretation. So
yeah, it's interesting that queer used to be a slur,
and
now it's been embraced by the gay community.
It went full circle.
By the queer community, but like the F word, which we can't really see because we will get demonetized. But if we say, because in the UK, that just means cigarette. That is just that's the only thing that word means is cigarette. But in America, obviously, it's quite a toxic slur. And I kind of think that someone else has put in the chat about Darian has said it stands for queer and questioning for people who aren't sure about their sexuality but feel like exploring it, which everyone should be able to do. And I just look forward to the day when no one describes themselves as being part of the LGBTQIA plus community, because it's just normal. It's just people go out with different people. It's not like I have to have a label to say, I'm going out with a brunette at the moment.
Well, that's my day job. I mean, I talk about this.
One of them, are you?
I mean, it's like Gen Z are really great, right? Because and young millennials, they are already saying, stop pigeonholing us now. You don't need to know that I'm trans guy, trans girl, or non-binary or gender. My name is Rachel. My pronouns are this. Just use this. If you want to know my language, you'll be my friend and be my ally, and you'll get to know my language by getting to know me. We don't have to go around pigeonholing it. And there was a period of trying to work out where you are on the spectrum and who you are. But actually, Gen Z are going, oh, for God's sake, let's move past the pigeonholing.
I think everyone's gay. They just haven't found the right man yet.
Yeah. You're coming out again on stream again, Graham.
No, it's not Friday night. It's only Friday night after a couple of baby shams, and then I'm anybody's. The A is for asexual, aromantic, and agender, as good as allies are. You don't need representation in the acronym. David is telling us, I worked for Sky TV customer services. We had an astonishing variety of people working in the office. One of my line managers was trans, and nobody, to the best of my knowledge, said anything.
No, and I transitioned 25 years ago, right? And I worked in an office. When it wasn't as widely known, and it was a bit of an oddity for about a week. Nobody said anything. They were really accepting, and we got on it. It's now harder in the workplace because of all this, because there are bigots coming into workplaces and yelling stuff out and making it difficult. And workplaces used to be safe. Now HR and DEIs have to work harder to make sure they're safe, and that's a shame.
Indeed. Oh, well, I hope everyone enjoyed our rundown of the party manifestos. We put them to the testo. I'll be back Phil's coming back in the morning.
Uncle Phil's back.
So Uncle Phil will be back in the morning and with Morning Brew at 9:30. And then I'll be back tomorrow for Quagglebox. Do you want to join me for Quagglebox?
Oh, I don't know. I might do if I'm free.
Come on, Quagglebox with me. I had Ben last week. It was Boss. There's the two of us standing there. We were like Statler and Waldorf from.
Have you got 300 miles of earphone?
No. I'll ping you on this and I'll share my screen with you. I think that'll work. I don't know. I haven't quite worked it out. But, I did one once where it was like we were doing PMQs with me and Supertansky. And I went, come on, I'll give you the feed so you can see it. I can send you the feed. You're just seeing me, aren't you? You're not seeing the screen with all the text on and everything.
Yeah.
And I was like, this will work. And then I thought, oh shit, how do we send her the sound? So she then had to watch it on her phone, on the BBC player on the phone. But she was like a couple of seconds ahead. So she kept on reacting to things that were happening. And I was like, what's going on? She's like, oh, you won't believe what he just said. So yeah.
It's a tech world.
Difficult.
We'll get there. Well, I'll let you know in the morning. I'll probably be all right. I need to just make sure I'm not doing anything tomorrow night. I've had a lot of trouble with Question Time in the last 14 years. After Jonathan Dimbleby left, or David Dimbleby left. Fiona I've had trouble with because obviously she always nosedives to protect the Tory, and she's always been kind of.
And they have Farage on every other week.
And Farage is on every other week, and it's always like one from the Spectator, one from Tufton Street, one Conservative, and then one poor Labour person on the left. It always felt a bit overbalanced. I used to be on Twitter in those days and watch everybody getting really upset about the balance, and it was. So I kind of took a break, and I used to love it. When politics was a little bit more boring and it was a little bit, and they were really horrible. And when they had India on, it was disgusting. And it was just, I don't know. But I have started watching it again, and I've been watching you. I watched it via you last week.
Cool. I got into trouble a couple of weeks ago for just making noises over when Farage was talking.
Mumbling in the corner.
I can't hear what Farage is saying, Graham, and I'm just like, well, then watch it on the telly. You don't have to watch it on the show. But yeah, Sarah says, I find it odd that JKR can attack a person changing their body to be happy, given the amount of plastic surgery she's had to change her body to be happy. Well, you might think that. I couldn't possibly comment.
You do trust me, don't you, Matty?
And Billy's asking me to advertise the next episode better. I'm sorry, I've just got loads of things on with the election and organising stuff. We've got the party that's happening in London on the election night. We've got to get accommodation sorted for that, and I'm going to find out what I'm doing the next day. And then today I had to go and get my foot x-rayed. Halfway through the day, I'm like, stop. So if you look into the description today, we've got the Stop the Tories.vote link underneath us. And we've also got the new endthetories.com, which is slightly different. It's not about tactical voting. It's about getting the true information out there under the noses of people who might not necessarily see it, but will see a lot of the bots and a lot of the automated systems that Reform have paid a lot of money for to get under the noses of people who would normally vote Conservative, and now they're possibly going to vote for Reform. Right now, in this election, I don't think it's going to be a game changer, but in the 2029 election, it will be. And at the moment, there's nothing in law when it comes to memes, when it comes to bots, when it comes to cheating on the internet. There's no law in place to protect people from that disinformation. Which
very X-Files. The information is out there.
It is, but it's not always true. So have a look at endthetories.com and see what you think. And if you want to give a bit of money or get involved in what we plan to do to fight this, please get involved, because we need
it's great.
Real people, not necessarily AI people. Right. Anyway, thank you very much, Rachel. Thanks, everyone.
You're very welcome. Thank you for all the
super chats.
Yeah, and
give us a like on the way out. And until next time, hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.